Hello everyone, this is Mama Senho. Welcome to our topic today, elements and compounds. The learning competency that we need to accomplish is recognize that substances are classified into elements and compounds. So there are currently 118 elements that have been identified, though only 88 of them are naturally occurring. In our universe, hydrogen makes up 75% of all matter. Helium makes up about 20%, with oxygen being the third most abundant element. All of the other elements are relatively rare in the universe. So these are the elements in the earth. So elements are a pure substance. That means they're made of only one kind of material. It has definite properties and it is the same all throughout. Elements are the simplest pure substance. That means they cannot be broken down into simpler substances without losing their identity. The smallest particle of an element that has the properties of that element is called an atom. Atoms are the building blocks of matter. Atoms of the same element are alike. Atoms of different elements are different. So we make use of chemical symbols in identifying an element. So what are chemical symbols? They are a shorthand way of representing the elements. They are usually 1 or 2 letters, usually taken from the name of the element. For example, the chemical symbol for carbon is capital letter C. Do not be mistaken by small letter c. Calcium is capital letter C, small letter A. Hydrogen is capital H. Iodine is capital I. Oxygen is capital O. Chlorine is capital C, small letter L. So some symbols come from their Latin name. For example, the chemical symbol for gold is capital A, small letter U, because the Latin name of gold is arum. For silver, the chemical symbol is capital A, small letter G, because the Latin name of silver is argentum. For iron, the chemical symbol is capital F, small letter E, because the Latin name of iron is ferrum. For mercury, the chemical symbol is capital H, small letter G, because the Latin name of mercury is hydrargyrum. On the other hand, compounds are pure substances that made up of more than one element. So compounds are basically 2 or more elements chemically combined. For example, the hydrogen and oxygen, 2 atoms of hydrogen and oxygen, that is a compound named water. Right? The NaCl, that's the sodium element and the chlorine element combined, that becomes a new substance which is called sodium chloride, or commonly called the table salt that we use in our food. Unlike elements, compounds can be broken down into simpler substances. This can happen through a chemical reaction. So just like in our first activity in our using our learning material, in which you are going to separate the hydrogen and the oxygen in a water, no, using electrolysis. So compounds have the properties of the elements that make up a compound, are often quite different from the properties of the compound itself. So for example, as what I have said, the sodium chloride or the NaCl, or the commonly called table salt, that is the one we use in our food, right? But take note, the elements used to combine that said compound are sodium, which is highly reactive metal, and chlorine, which is a poisonous gas. But take note, the reactive metal and the poisonous gas, when combined, it becomes a very friendly. It will help us taste our food better. This is our module 3 in our grade 7 learning material, elements and compounds. So everybody, let us read. All substances are homogeneous. Okay, some mixtures are also homogeneous. Being so, it is difficult to distinguish mixtures and substances based on appearance. So, however, there are ways to tell if a sample is a mixture or a substance. The temperature of a liquid mixture varies during boiling point, but for a liquid substance, it does not. A solid mixture has portions that do not melt, but a solid substance melts completely within a short time. That was our discussion in the previous module. That is how to differentiate mixture and substance. Okay? Solid mixture or solid substance, you are going to melt. Liquid mixture or liquid substance, you are going to boil. Because during boiling, a pure substance has a consistent boiling temperature. Whereas the mixture, it has a varying. That means it keeps on changing. So it is not consistent on its temperature. Whereas for the solid substance, okay, you are going to melt it and it will melt completely at a certain temperature. Whereas a solid mixture, okay, in a given temperature, there are parts that does not melt or that do not melt. So that signifies that that's a mixture. Alright. So in this module, you will find out that substances may be further classified into compounds and elements. So this is it. So matter is further classified into mixtures and substances. Substances are further classified into compounds and elements. So you're going to, okay, you're going to have this. Okay, you're going to have this activity entitled Electrolysis. Water. What are you made of? It's a very nice activity. So you're going to use an electrolysis apparatus. Alright. So in this process class, okay, in this electrolysis, a water is decomposed. So a water which is a compound. So electrolysis decomposed water, which is a compound, into hydrogen and oxygen. Hydrogen and oxygen are elements. So as you have seen from the activity above, so compounds are substances that consist of two elements. So as you compare more compounds, you'll find out that there are compounds that may be composed of more than two elements. In the activity above, you noted that oxygen, the gas collected in the positive electron, made the lighted stick burn more vigorously. This means oxygen supports burning. Hydrogen, the gas you collected in the negative electrode, gave a popping sound when a glowing stick was thrust into it. The sound comes from the rapid burning of hydrogen in the presence of air. Note how different the properties are of hydrogen and oxygen from water. Diba? So just like in the table salt, so the components which are oxygen, sodium and chlorine is poisonous, sodium is dangerous too, but combined it helps us taste our food better. Whereas in here, hydrogen supports burning, and so with oxygen, but when they are combined, it will, what happened? Okay. So it will be of a different substance. Okay. It will help eliminate fire. there are 118 elements. Alright, and later on, you're going to encounter their common uses. And in here, activity 2, the periodic table is elementary. So you're going to be familiar with the layout of the periodic table. Know some information about the elements that may be found in the periodic table, so the common uses. Then identify the group number and element it belongs to. Alright. So there are many elements present in the food you eat, whether it is a natural food like a banana or those processed like banana chips, biscuits, milk, and juice. These are mostly nutrients which the human body needs in order to function well. Some of these are calcium, magnesium, zinc, and selenium. Find these elements in the periodic table. Can you name more? Did you also find them in the periodic table? Yes, of course. So this next activity, you'll find out how these elements are present in the food you eat. So using the nutrition facts. So in every food you eat, usually there are nutrition facts. So in activity 3, the title is the matter and labels. So in this activity, you should be able to name the elements that are listed in the nutrition facts of a food label. So you're going to recognize that the elements listed in the nutrition facts are not added as the elements themselves, because that might be poisonous. Infer the food ingredient that could be the source of those listed elements. So you are going to identify. Recognize that most of these food ingredients are examples of compounds. So all you have to do is cut out a food label with the nutrition facts. Then you are going to identify here the food product, then the compound, then the constituent element. As you have learned from the activity about the elements in food are in combination with other elements, and the resulting compounds are referred to as minerals. Thus, you are not eating the elements themselves. A product label that lists sodium as a nutrient does not mean that you will be eating the elements sodium. It means that the composition of one of the ingredients includes sodium. In the case of soy sauce, the ingredient is monosodium glutamate. It is very rare and most of the time dangerous if you take in the element itself. In activity 1, you have seen that water did not give off a pop sound or induce a bright spark when exposed to a spark or flame, unlike its constituent elements hydrogen and oxygen respectively. This means that the properties of compounds are different from the properties of the elements it is made up of. There are cases that elements of a compound pose less risk than its constituent elements. An example is sodium on one of its compounds. Sodium is an element that burns when it comes in contact with water. Refer to the photo above. So this photo is about the sodium. Imagine the danger that you are in if you will be eating sodium as an element. However, sodium chloride, which is a compound made up of elements, sodium and chlorine, doesn't burn when it comes in contact with water. In fact, sodium chloride is sometimes used with water as a common food ingredient. Perhaps you are already familiar with this. Okay, that's the table salt. Yes, table salt is commonly called, sodium chloride is commonly called table salt. So we have here the recommended nutrient intakes or mineral intakes for the different group of people. So you have this in your learning material. Just refer this in the book. Okay, and we have here some elements that are essential to life. For example, calcium. The source of calcium are milk, cheese, canned fish with bones, sesame seeds, green leafy vegetables. So the function of calcium is essential to formation and maintenance of bones and teeth, regulates nerve transmission, muscle contraction, and blood clotting. The deficiency, if you lack this calcium, is rickets in children, diseases of the bones in adults such as softening, softening of the bones and decrease in bone mass. Then we have the magnesium, potassium, selenium, sodium, sulfur, zinc, chromium, copper, fluorine, iron, iodine, manganese. Just refer this in your book. So it is also an advantage if you know the different names of the elements and compounds. So take the case of the food product label below. So refer to the nutrition facts. Now refer to the ingredients. Do you find any ingredient that could be a source of sodium? Okay, it may seem not at first. However, knowing that the other name for sodium chloride is salt, you can now identify one source ingredient for the sodium that is listed in the nutrition facts. So any ingredient added to food should be safe to eat in terms of quality and quantity. By quality, these ingredients must be food grade. A substance undergoes a process before it becomes food grade. It is only after that substance may be safely added as a food ingredient. So if it is a non-food grade substance, then it should not be added to products that are meant to be ingested. Ingested meaning you are going to take in. Refer to the product labels for a soy sauce and emulsion. Notice that potassium sorbate is a common ingredient. It has the function for both products. That is, it acts as a preservative so the product would last longer. However, it is important to note that food-grade potassium sorbate was added in soy sauce. Okay? While a non-food grade potassium sorbate may be added in the lotion. In the next activity, you will encounter another substance that is common to materials that are not meant to be ingested. However, this substance was made food grade before it was added as a food ingredient. This substance is iron. This food grade iron is sprayed into the food or added as powder to the mixture because it is the elemental iron that was added as a mixture. Its properties are retained. One of these is its magnetic property. Thus, you can recover the iron present in the food product by using a magnet. In the next activity, guys, you need to use a magnet or magnetic steering magnet with white coating. I hope these are available. Okay. So in summary, right, as you have seen, elements are part of almost anything around us. Food, clothes, rocks, and even this paper you are currently reading from. Elements are said to be the building blocks of matter. They are like blocks that you can put together and build something new. When you build something new from these elements, you call them as compounds. So compounds are made up of elements. Elements are the simplest form of matter. Both elements and compounds are substances.
We have here the elements, its symbol, and the common uses. For example, hydrogen, so it's in the sun. Helium, in balloons, rocket fuel, plane. Then lithium in battery, medicine, air conditioner. For beryllium, they are in satellite, emerald, machine parts, and springs. For boron, they are in ceramics, soap, glass manufacturing. For carbon, they are used in diamonds, charcoal, plastic. For nitrogen, ammonia, steel manufacturing, coolant. For oxygen, they are breathable air, used in ozone layer, used in water, fluorine, toothpaste, rocket fuel, etching solutions. For neon, okay, they are used in TV tube, neon sign, laser. So those are the uses of the common elements. There are also the sodium, the commonly known element that is used in to combine with chlorine to form table salt, then fertilizer, then you have paper manufacturing, For magnesium, we have chlorophyll molecules, medicine, camera flash bulbs. For aluminum, they're used in serving utensils, rubies and gems, cans and packaging, silicones, skeletal system, glass, computer chip. For phosphorus, they're used in baking powder, fireworks, china, and plates. Sulfur, they're used in matches, fireworks, volcano. Chlorine, they're used in swimming pool, water purification. And for argon, they're used in light bulbs, growing crystals, and vacuum tubes. So,
an element is a pure substance. In other words, an element cannot be broken down into a simpler substance by physical or chemical means. An element is made up of only one type of atom. A compound is a pure substance of two or more elements chemically combined. Elements combine during a chemical change. This compound has different properties than the elements that make it up. Table salt is sodium and chlorine.
So in here, we are going to locate the group number and the period of the elements of the periodic table. Alright, so as you can see, there are 7 horizontal lines. Those are the periods of the elements. So there are 7 periods of the elements. Then we have the vertical columns. They are the so-called group number of the elements. So there are 18 group number. So 1 to 18 is the group number.